In this video, we're going to be using the angle-angle side congruence theorem to prove that triangles are congruent. So remember, the angle-angle side theorem says if you have two pairs of congruent angles and one pair of congruent sides. Now notice how this side is not in between the two congruent angles. It's on the outside. Then you may use the angle-angle side congruence theorem. So the difference between this theorem and the angle side angle is that in this theorem, the side is not included, not in between the two congruent angles. We are going to go ahead and work on the angle-angle side proofs in your proof workbook. So head to page 7, and we're going to start with angle-angle side proof number 1. All right, we need to prove that triangle QSR is congruent to triangle TSR. Our first given statement is that line segment SR bisects angle QST. Now we've already seen examples of angle bisectors. Remember, that means this line segment cuts angle QST into two congruent parts, into two smaller congruent angles. So from the first given statement, we are able to say that angle QSR must be congruent to angle TSR by the definition of an angle bisector. That helped us get one pair of congruent angles. They also give us angle SQR is congruent to angle STR. I'm going to add that in my proof. So from that given statement, that gets us another pair of congruent angles. We need one more congruent part. I notice these two triangles share a side. They share line segment SR. And so that's going to help us get that congruent side in these two triangles. Line segment SR must be congruent to itself. This is from the reflexive property. And so now, when we look at our picture, we have an angle, side. The side is not in between the angles, and so we're going to prove that the two triangles are congruent using the angle, side theorem. On the next page, we're going to do our last angle, side proof. We need to prove that triangle XWZ is congruent to triangle XYZ. The first statement they give us is angle XWZ is congruent to angle XYZ. Let's go find those in the picture. Angle XWZ is congruent to angle XYZ. That gives us one pair of congruent angles. We are also told that line segment XZ bisects angle WXY. Angle WXY is this angle down here. This line segment bisects that angle. So that means it cuts it into two congruent angles. So for our third statement, we're going to say angle WXZ is congruent to angle YXZ by the definition of angle bisector. That gets us another pair of congruent angles. We're looking for that third congruent part. You're probably noticing it before I even say it. They share a side. They share line segment XZ. And so line segment XZ has to be congruent to itself by the reflexive property. And so looking in the picture, we have an angle-angle-side congruence theorem. The side is not in between the angles, so that makes this an angle-angle-side, not angle-side-angle. And so our final statement, triangle XWZ is congruent to triangle XYZ by the angle-angle-side theorem.